is Sunday, October 10 today. It's like 65 degrees already this morning, super humid, and you might be able to hear behind me the trees are dripping water. It kind of thunderstormed and rained pretty hard in the middle of the night last night. Everything's real wet this morning, which seems to be the case for all of bow season so far. At least on the weekends it's been raining it seems like every day on the weekends, but either way, another warm, humid one, another south wind. I'm here in the same stand I sat last night. So basically off to my left, I've got pines. It has a few trails that cut through it. In front of me, there's a hardwood edge where it switches from pines to hardwoods. And it kind of drops down into a little bowl over there, and there's some thick bedding cover around the edges of the bowl. And sometimes mainly does bed up in there. And then back behind me, several hundred yards is a big swamp. And that seems to be where bucks prefer to bed the most. I'm not planning on shooting a doe this morning, but there are a couple of does that I would shoot. We got one. It's been a while since I've had her on trail camera, but she's got a broken back leg. There's another doe that I would shoot that's missing a front leg, so it's a three-legged doe. I've kind of been calling her Peggy. She seems to be getting around fairly okay yet too. I just got a video of her maybe a week or so ago, not too far from this location. But that's kind of another deal where I don't want her to go through this winter. I'd hate to have her die like over the winter and just go to waste. I'd much rather like harvest her now quickly, cleanly, and be able to use the meat versus just having it go to waste. So those are the only two does I would shoot, or if something else weird like that came through. But I think two does with leg problems is like more than average anyways, so I don't expect to see a third one, but hey, you never know. The weather is kind of the big deal today. I'm not expecting crazy movement. You never know, I'm here, might as well try it and see what happens. It only takes one. So that's basically the setup. Not super hopeful for today, but I would love to be pleasantly surprised. So that being said, wish me luck, and I'm going to stop talking because it's starting to get gray light, so I could be seeing deer here pretty soon. should be done in the next 30 minutes or so. And it looks like pretty light rain on the radar. So I'm just gonna stick it out. And I just put my phone back in my pocket and heard a stick break, and I looked over and those does were coming in pretty quick. Yeah, they came on through and they fed around at like 10 yards or so right downwind of me. One of them kind of looked up at me a little bit. I don't know if she saw me or what, but eventually decided it was nothing, and she milled around for a little bit longer. The other three had already worked their way off for probably a couple minutes already, and then that one like all of a sudden realized, oh crap, I'm alone, and took off to catch up with them. So they headed off towards that bowl and that ridge where deer bed. So I think that's where they're gonna bed for the morning. Good to see deer on their feet. I should probably pay more attention though. Down at the bottom of the hill here, she just bedded down. It's like almost 10 o'clock. I'm fixing to leave here pretty soon, but I don't know how I feel about leaving her. She was kind of having a hard time walking around. With these pines being so quiet and there's a decent amount of cover between her and I might be able to sneak down there and stalk in on her and see if I can't shoot her while she's bedded. I'm gonna give it a few minutes and see what she does, but then I'll make the call. The wind's right in my face. She's right down there. Like I said, good cover between her and I might be able to make it happen. So I'll let you know here in a little bit. I'm just gonna watch her for a while and see what she does. Here's the scoop. She's bedded in a perfect spot for a stalk. She looks otherwise healthy, minus the broken leg. But I've got a doe tag in my pocket. It's a little bit after 10 o'clock. No other deer are gonna come through. It seems like a decent opportunity to fill that tag, as well as not have to worry about is she gonna make it or not. The wind's right in my face. She's bedded down looking the opposite way. The only thing is my ladder's pretty loud on this tree. So I guess I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna give it a chance and see what happens. I'll try to point my camera over there and I'll take my GoPro with me and I'll get it on film as good as I can. Turning my phone on silent so it doesn't vibrate. I'm gonna take my nose and rangefinder with me yet, but I'm gonna take my bow. I'm only gonna take, maybe I'll take my whole quiver. But alright, so I'm gonna spin the camera around and try to get on that doe, and we'll see if I can't stalk up on her and get her. stalked up to 19 yards. I just got her. Oh my gosh, thank you, Lord. Oh. I hope that turned out alright on either the GoPro or my camera up in the tree. I'm gonna go grab my other camera and turn it off. But I'll catch you up on that camera here in a second. Alright, back in the tree. The deed is done. Over the course of about 20 minutes or so, I snuck into about 19 yards from her. There's a couple other does in there that actually bumped and spooked. I didn't know they were here. They were on the other side of the bowl. And they blew and took off, and she stayed there. There's another doe, probably 40 yards from her, that was sitting there blowing at me. I think trying to get her to get up and leave, but she wouldn't do it. So that was probably a good confirmation to me that she needed to be taken. So I snuck into 19 yards, and she really wasn't looking that oriented. And I drew back and stepped out from behind the tree. I kept this one tree between her and I pretty much the whole time. And I stepped out, put it where it needed to go, shot her. She hopped up, maybe went 10 yards and fell over dead. So kind of feel like Zach from the hunting public sneaking up on one. I don't want to call it a mercy killing, but it kind of is at the same time. I'm glad I got her looking back. So she's dead. I'm gonna pull the crap out of my tree and go down there and check her out. Alright, so I'm here at the base of my stand, and I'm going to walk you through what I did. Basically, if you look behind me here, right through here, there's several trees right in this area, and she was right behind those. So I basically had a solid wall of trees to walk behind. So what I did was I snuck up behind these trees. And when I got to about this point, I had to take my time getting through all this stuff. But there's enough places where I could place my feet kind of like this and not step on any branches. And so she was bedded right down, kind of right down in here. So I kind of scooted over this way and kept that tree that my bow is in between her and I. I had to sneak through all those branches and stuff like that, and kind of weaseled my way down through here. And I kept ranging her. At first I was at like 30 yards, but there was a branch that came right over the vitals. So I wanted to get as close as I could to avoid hitting that branch. And I ended up sneaking down to right here behind this tree. And you can see it's got some vines here and here that I could use for extra cover. And I stood right here and I took my quiver off because I don't usually shoot with a quiver on. I put my GoPro up there filming, so hopefully that got some of the shot too. And I waited for the breeze to blow, and when it did, I drew back and I stepped out, and she was bedded right down by that tree right down here. So I had a nice little tunnel that I could thread the arrow through right there and shot her. She popped up and ran over here, and she's dead right down there. So not exactly the way you want it to go, but I'm glad I made the call to try to stalk her, and I'm glad it all came together. It'll be meat in the freezer for sure, and now I don't have to worry about her suffering. My conscience is clear, and nobody wants to see an animal suffer. So I think my arrow passed straight through, so I'm gonna go try to find my arrow. And then it's supposed to be warm today. It's supposed to be about 80. I wasn't planning on shooting a doe. So I'm gonna have to hurry up and get her taken care of, get her on some ice, and that way the meat doesn't spoil. So I'm gonna go try to find my arrow. I'm gonna grab my bow and stuff too, and then the dirty work begins. Here's your bed. And as you can see, even just right here, she started gushing immediately. It only made it to right there. Here's my arrow. This feels like it's pus filled or something. Alright, here she is. She's probably a 1.5-year-old doe or so. That back leg is definitely broken and it looks maybe pus filled too. So we'll see how the meat ends up on that. But the exit side shot was perfect. As you guys saw, she didn't go very far at all. Definitely a bittersweet one. I'm glad I shot her. I think most of the meat will definitely be salvageable. Kind of bittersweet, not exactly the way you want it to go. I'd rather have it be like definitely fair chase, but there's still something to be said for sneaking up on them in their bed and shooting them there. So I'm happy with it. I'm glad she's done suffering, and I'm glad to fill another doe tag. So good start to the season so far. Every weekend I've killed something. Got a wedding to go to next weekend, so I don't know if I'll get a chance to hunt then or not, but either way, I got it done.